All right, so are you ready to dive into a Hollywood marriage that's really, well, let's just say they've got people talking. We're looking at Billy Baldwin and Chynna Phillips.
30 years strong?
30 years strong.
Wow.
I know,
That's impressive.
especially these days.
Yeah.
So
Hollywood.
our main source for this deep dive is a Fox News article. Billy did an interview and it really kind of opened up about their relationship.
Okay, interesting.
And are you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
Okay. Chynna actually revealed on her YouTube channel, California Preachin', that they spent a good chunk of their marriage, goodness, living in separate homes.
Right.
Not just like,
So weekend here, a weekend there.
yeah, not a weekend apart, different cities.
Oh, wow.
So that's
unusual.
yeah, it throws a wrench in the whole till death do us part thing.
It really does.
Right?
Yeah.
So we've got Billy the actor, one of those Baldwins,
Right.
and Chynna the singer, daughter of John and Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, wow.
Choosing to live apart.
Choosing to live apart.
There's got to be more to this story.
Yeah. You think.
Right.
So she was living in Santa Barbara. He was in Beverly Hills. They'd still have like date nights and family time and stuff.
So it's almost like they were treating marriage like a long-distance relationship, but within driving distance.
Yeah, like a long distance relationship where you could just hop in the car and go see the other person.
Right, exactly. Okay, so maybe they were just trying to find that balance, between having their own space and still being together. But this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Chynna later admitted that moving back in together at the end of 2024 might have been a foolish decision, and maybe even a destructive decision.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty intense.
Right.
Yeah.
So they tried this separation thing.
Uh-huh.
They reunite,
Right.
and now she's having second thoughts.
That makes you wonder what happened
What happened?
when they moved back in together.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes Billy's take on all of this even more intriguing.
Okay.
In that Fox News interview, he said, "I'm no expert, but I think a successful marriage needs chemistry, luck, hard work, and sacrifice."
Sacrifice.
So how does sacrifice play into this whole living apart situation?
Right.
It's a good question.
Good question.
He didn't directly address their living situation, but he did tell this fascinating story about couples therapy.
Oh, really?
Apparently, their therapist had this very unique approach.
Okay, listening.
So the therapist asked them to each pinpoint just one thing that they needed from the other person.
Get
One
cool.
core need seems simple, right?
It does, but
But think about the implications.
yeah, you're right.
It really forces you to boil everything down to the absolute essential.
Uh-huh.
No more beating around the bush. No more laundry list of complaints. Just that one core need that, if fulfilled, could make all the difference.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a superpower need.
Exactly.
If you can figure that out
Exactly.
and then give that to the other person, that's what keeps things going.
It ties into this advice that he gave to feed the relationship consistently, even if you're not perfect at it.
Okay.
He believes that just making the effort to meet that one need, even imperfectly, can be a game changer.
I like that.
Right.
It's a good philosophy.
It's not about being a mind reader
Yeah.
or flawlessly fulfilling every desire, but it's about recognizing that one core need and actively striving to address it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now hold on to your hats, because there's another layer to all of this. At
Okay.
the same time as all this is going on, Billy's working on this film called No Address, which tackles the issue of homelessness.
Homelessness.
Yeah.
How does that play into this? It
Yeah.
seems like a totally different topic.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
How does that?
How does that connect to marriage advice?
Right.
You know?
It's subtle, but I think there's a link.
Okay.
He talks about all this research that he did for the role,
Yeah.
interviewing people experiencing homelessness,
Right.
advocating for solutions.
Right.
It seems like he went above and beyond. You know, the typical celebrity awareness campaign.
Yeah, so he was really invested in this.
He was really invested.
Okay.
So do you think he's drawing some parallels between the sacrifices needed to address homelessness and the sacrifices required in a relationship?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
Both require empathy, understanding different perspectives, and a willingness to put in the effort even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we have Chynna, who's seeking this unstructured arrangement, and Billy, who's emphasizing sacrifice and meeting each other's needs. It's like they're approaching the same goal
Yeah.
of a successful, long-lasting relationship, but from completely different angles.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
It really is.
Because
It
it's,
challenges all of our assumptions
yeah,
about what a successful marriage looks like.
yeah,
Because it's not a one-size-fits-all model.
right. And the fact that they've made it work for 30 years
30 years.
is worth exploring.
It really is.
This is where things get really juicy.
Okay.
So stick with us as we dive deeper into their individual perspectives and see if we can unpack the secrets to their unconventional but seemingly enduring love story.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've established that Billy and Chynna aren't afraid to, kind of break the mold when it comes to marriage.
Right.
But is this whole unstructured arrangement really something that could work long term? I mean, Chynna did say that moving back in together might have been a mistake.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What's sustainable for one couple might be a total deal breaker for another.
Right.
It seems like their definition of unstructured is always evolving too.
It's almost like they're treating marriage like a living experiment. They're constantly adapting and tweaking things as they go.
Right.
Which is pretty brave when you think about it. Most people are terrified to rock the boat in a relationship.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, they seem to be very open to change.
They're open.
And trying new things.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of what's kept them together for so long.
It makes you wonder what their individual one thing is.
Right.
From that therapy exercise,
Yeah.
what core needs are they trying to fulfill?
Let's start with Chynna. I'm really curious about her decision to seek that separation in the first place. It sounds like she was actively trying to figure out what was missing, what she needed to feel fulfilled, both as an individual and within the marriage.
Yeah, maybe the physical separation was her way of creating space for self-discovery,
Yeah.
and to reevaluate her needs within the relationship. Maybe she needed that distance to really gain clarity on what she truly wanted.
And maybe for Billy, that one thing revolves around stability and consistency.
Oh, that's interesting.
Remember how he talked about the importance of feeding the relationship consistently, even if you're not perfect at it?
Right.
That suggests a desire for a reliable and dependable partner,
Someone who's always
a
there.
constant presence.
Yeah, a constant.
Even when things get tough.
Yeah.
But is that kind of consistency even possible when you're living in separate cities? And if Chynna's core need is space and independence, how do you reconcile those seemingly opposing desires?
Yeah, that's where I think the idea of sacrifice comes in.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that fulfilling your partner's needs might require you to step outside your comfort zone, stretch yourself in ways you hadn't anticipated.
So it's not about finding a perfect match where your needs just magically align perfectly. It's about finding someone you're willing to compromise for and sacrifice for, even when it's challenging.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's about choosing to love that person, even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Okay, let's circle back to Billy's film No Address. I'm really fascinated by his dedication to researching homelessness. It sounds like he really immersed himself in the issue.
He did. He really did. He spent time in over 20 cities and 18 sports, interviewing people from all walks of life who were impacted by homelessness.
Wow.
He talked to people experiencing homelessness firsthand, but also experts in government, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, the whole spectrum.
That goes way beyond the typical, celebrity raise awareness campaign.
Way beyond.
It's like he was conducting his own deep dive into the world of homelessness.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the connection to his marriage advice becomes a little bit clearer.
Okay, how so?
Both situations. Navigating a long-term relationship and addressing a complex social issue like homelessness, they require empathy,
Right.
understanding,
Yeah.
and a willingness to meet people where they are.
You have to be willing to listen and learn and adapt your approach based on individual needs and circumstances.
There's no easy fix. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the key to Billy and Chynna's 30-year marriage. Maybe they've figured out how to apply those same principles. Empathy, understanding, adaptability to their own relationship.
Interesting.
They're constantly listening, learning, and adapting to each other's evolving needs, even if it means doing things differently than everyone else.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So their approach to marriage might not be conventional, but it's rooted in some pretty solid principles that could really apply to any relationship, romantic, platonic, even societal.
It makes you wonder if their willingness to experiment and break the mold is what's kept their marriage alive for 3 decades.
Yeah, because they've been together longer than many traditional couples.
That's true.
Yeah.
So while their unstructured approach might raise eyebrows, it's hard to argue with results.
Right.
They found something that works for them, and that's ultimately what matters.
Absolutely. And it challenges all of us to question our own assumptions
Yeah.
about what a successful relationship would look like.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more than one path to lasting love.
Maybe the key is finding what works for you and the partner, even if it means rewriting the rule book. So after hearing all this, I can't help but wonder what their individual one thing actually is. What are those core needs that Billy and Chynna are really trying to fulfill for each other?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And it's probably different for every couple,
Right.
But I think that's the beauty of that therapy exercise. It forces you to get real with yourself about what truly matters in your relationship.
Yeah.
No more vague complaints, just that one essential need.
It's almost like a shortcut to better communication.
Totally.
Instead of dancing around the issue, you go straight to the heart of what's missing, and that clarity can be so powerful.
Absolutely. Because sometimes we assume our partners just know what we need, and then we get resentful when they don't give it to us, And that can lead to all sorts of misunderstandings.
Right. And let's be honest, it's not always easy to articulate those needs.
Right.
Especially if they've been buried under years of routine or unspoken expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that brings us back to Chynna's need for that unstructured arrangement.
Okay.
Maybe that physical separation was her way of not only figuring out what was missing for her, but also how to actually communicate that need effectively to Billy.
So she needed that space to find her own voice, literally and figuratively.
I think so.
And then once she had that clarity, she could bring it back to the relationship and be like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. And for Billy, maybe that one thing is about feeling needed and appreciated. Remember, he talked about consistently feeding the relationship.
Right.
Maybe that act of giving, of providing for his partner's needs, is what makes him feel valued and secure.
So maybe in a way, their seemingly opposite approaches are actually two sides of the same coin.
Ooh, I like that.
Chynna needs space to feel fulfilled, and Billy needs to give to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, that's a really insightful observation.
So it's not about one person being right and the other one being wrong. It's about finding a way to honor both of those needs.
Yes.
Within the context of the relationship.
Within the relationship, exactly.
It's like a delicate dance, isn't it? Figuring out how to meet each other's needs without sacrificing your own sense of self.
It is.
And that takes constant communication, compromise,
Right.
and a willingness to adapt.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's the secret to their 30-year marriage.
It could be.
They've managed to create this dynamic where they're both giving and receiving in a way that feels balanced and sustainable, even if it looks different from the outside.
It definitely challenges the idea that there's only one right way to be in a relationship. Billy and Chynna have shown us that there's room for creativity, flexibility, and even a little bit of unconventional thinking.
And their story is a good reminder that relationships are constantly evolving.
They are.
What works for you and your partner today might need to be adjusted tomorrow.
Right.
The key is to stay curious, keep communicating, and never stop exploring what brings you both joy and fulfillment.
I love that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. What do you think about Billy and Chynna's approach to marriage? Could you see yourself trying something similar?
Yeah, and what's your one thing in a relationship? What's that core need that, if fulfilled, would make you feel truly loved and supported?
We encourage you to think about it, discuss it with your partner, and never be afraid to challenge the status quo when it comes to finding happiness and fulfillment in your relationship.
Because ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding what works for you, even if it means creating your own unique path.
That's it for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those conversations going.